Well, quite a change from being in Mexico last week. Going from plus 28 to minus 28. You get off the plane and you feel the shrinkage. You know, I want to give you a couple of stories first, my roofing stories before get into it. And this goes back quite a few years ago. I was a home builder, and it was I'm talking 40 years ago. So yeah, we were building a home, and we had it up to the lockup stage, and the roof is on, mechanical was in, and the stucco, the wire and paper and wire were on the outside. At that time, it was a double layer of heavy building paper. So it was all at the lockup stage, and we had a 3-day driving rain. And I remember it was just unbelievable, almost as bad as 2013. Does anybody remember it? It's about 38 years ago. 30. Anyway, it was just 3 days of just solid rain. I ended up with water on the subfloor, and I thought, well, what the heck? How did they get all this water on the subfloor? So I called the roofer, and the roofer came out and looked around and said, oh, hey, everything looks good. There's no problem with the roof. He said, why don't you check with the plumber? And because it could be coming in through the plumbing stack. So I called the plumber, he came out, all the collar was done right, all sealed properly. He said, why don't you check with the heating company? Because maybe it's coming through the furnace stack. So I checked with the heating company, they came out, again, collar was all sealed, everything was fine. He said, well, why don't you check now with the soffit fascia guy? I called the soffit fascia guy, he says, what do you mean? We're below the roof, call a roofer. So then I checked with the stucco guy, and it was the exact same answer. Hey, look it's not our problem, call the roofer. So what I ended up doing was I called back the roofing company and I asked, could you send out your most experienced, qualified roofer, somebody that really knows their stuff, you've got somebody who's certified. And they did. And this is a true story, by the way. Anyway, so he sent the guy out and he checked everything all around the house. And what happened was the soffit and fascia guy, there's multiple roof lines here, and soffit and fascia going into the roof, and so in different levels on a 2-story home. And so it was kind of a complex roof. And the soffit and fascia guy didn't do any siliconing when he was done his work on a few little spots. And the same thing with the stucco installer. The stucco installer didn't use any silicone around the sheet metal around the windows. And that's where the water was coming in. So anyway, from that experience, I found out what the tradesman's coat of arms is. And have you guys know what it is? He did it. Okay, so the other story I have is just a really short one. Was my father-in-law was getting a new roof. He was 75 years old, been smoking since he was 15. So you can imagine he's a pretty heavy smoker. Anyway, the contractor came out and said, here's the price. We can get you into a 15-year warranty roof shingle. And but Mr. O'Grady, you know what? For an extra $2,000, we could get you up to a 25-year shingle. My father-in-law looked at him and said, look at me. Okay. So what I'm going to talk about is some of the benefits to you, address some of the concerns your industry has had in the past, provide you some trade information, some parts and pieces, and talk about this here. Okay. You might have some questions afterwards, and if they don't get answered all today, or if you want to contact me, okay, that's my job, just to help you. To help employers. That's what I do as an apprenticeship. We were consultants, but now they call us officers because we do some site inspections. That's our job, is to go out and actually help employers and help apprentices to get registered and to get through the program and to be successful. So don't be afraid to contact me. I have some business cards if you want them. So what is an apprenticeship? There's many variations of a definition. There's one on our website, but I have my own. Basically, I call it, it's an educational program. It's just an educational program that combines on-the-job training with technical training. But in this case, it leads to certification. And a certification is a journeyman certificate. And fortunately for this industry, very fortunate, we have a Red Seal designation, interprovincial Red Seal designation. Not all trades have that. Okay, so that's an important thing because it gives you many other perks and benefits that some other trades don't have. Okay. So just an educational program. It's a 4-year trade in Alberta. Some other provinces, it's only 2 or 3. But in Alberta, it's 4. And that's because of those, we have a province with a lot of freeze, thaw, really complex, things going on here. 3 days of driving rain. Okay, so 1,420 hours for the first 3 periods and 1,600 hours for the 4th period. And the reason the difference is because there's no school in the 4th period. So the first 3 periods, there is some school. There's 6 weeks of school. Okay, 6 weeks of technical training times 3. That's it. And we'll get into this. I'm jumping ahead here, but a person can actually challenge 2 of them. Okay, not really recommended. So why 4 years? Well, I said that because of the freeze thaw issues. I'm just going over my notes, make sure I cover everything. As you know, roof streak can expand. We get the ice build up and Chinook conditions and so on and so on. Okay. So what are some of the benefits to you, to the employers, to your industry? Let's look at first, there's some financial benefits. Money is important. Okay. So there's a tax credit. If you apprentice a roofer, in a Red Seal trade, anyone in a Red Seal trade, the employer can claim a tax credit of $2,000 for the first year and $2,000 for the second year. That's for every apprentice, not just one. Okay, so if you've got 10 apprentices, that's $40,000 in tax credits. Okay, so if you got 5 apprentices, that's potentially $20,000 in tax credits. I know you got a question. Go ahead. I can answer it.
Sorry, when you say per year, do you mean per semester or what the?
No, this is the employee, that would be your tax year. This is a tax credit, so your tax account would deal with that when they do their taxes. Okay, so that's one program. Then there's a grant program that just came out last September. All right. And that information can be found on apprentice search. Sorry. Get that right. apprenticesearch.com/CAS. Okay, so what that stands for is the Canadian Apprenticeship Service. It is a federally funded program that supports employers with non-repayable grants. Okay, to offset the cost of hiring new first-year apprentices in 39 Red Seal trades. Who is eligible? A company that has under 499 employees or less. Does anybody here have a company over 499 employees? Okay, so even if you got one, a hand went up over there, okay. Okay, so you're signing a candidate as a first-year apprentice and you're willing to complete, mandatory mentorship training provided through BuildForce. Now, this is an online course, okay, so, don't get caught up too much in that. Anyway, you apply first for this program before you hire the apprentice, before you take on the apprentice. Guess how much they're going to give you? Well, it's $5,000 grant for every apprentice. However, if that apprentice is from an underrepresented group, okay, which would be, it's in the information, all those groups, but for the most part, female, Indigenous, let's see, maybe a handicap. They have to fill out, the apprentice has to declare information, so it could be from the LGBTQ community. Anyway, from an underrepresented group, it's not 5,000, it's 10,000. It's 10,000. So now you're allowed 5,000 per apprentice per year to a maximum level 1. To a maximum of 2. So you can have 2 apprentices for each employer and get a $5,000 grant for 2. Or you can get 2 $10,000 grants, depending on which category the person falls into. Okay, so that's the second program. The third program Well, you're thinking, is there 3 programs? I gotcha. The third program, which is the most important program, is that this training is subsidized. Jess, I'm gonna call on you. What's the tuition?
Oh, you would. I can't remember what it was.
Okay, so anyway, it's,
And
was $1,010 with
Yeah.
state fees? So it's $1,000. So it's like under 7, I think. And then you add all the state fees, it's about $1,000, just a few dollars or more. For 6 weeks of training. Mabel, start the car. Like, come on. Guys, 6 weeks of training. Where on this planet do you get to go for 6 weeks of training and it only costs you $1,000? And the government's going to give you $1,000 back after you finish it. Wow, that's even better. Okay, so.
1005, Dave.
What's that?
1005.
1,005. There we go.
You're pretty close.
Deal breakers. Is that Alberta government?
That
Does the subsidy come from the Canadian government or Alberta government?
that's from the $1,000 after first, $1,000 after second. And 2,000 after you complete. Those are from Canadian federal government.
That goes to the worker, right?
That's the Canada Apprenticeship Incentive and Completion Grants. That's for the apprentice. Okay, the other ones I was talking about before are for the employer. Now we're talking about the ones for the apprentice. There's a few for the apprentice now. The apprentice gets to claim EI while they're in school. So they're off your payroll in the cold months like today. They're not working today anyway, so they're in school, off your payroll, they're collecting EI. And they get 1,000 after first, 1,000 after second, 2,000 when they complete. All right. Then there's a Canada tradesperson's tool deduction. So yeah, if you look at all the tools that they need, you know, the rigging equipment or whatever, and the equipment that they hand tools and that, they might be able to claim some of that as a tool deduction. Then there's the apprenticeship, Alberta Apprenticeship Scholarships and Awards. And over the years, the number of $1,000 scholarships has grown into the hundreds. They actually give away hundreds of $1,000 scholarships. So there's a lot of money that goes to apprentices. And why? Well, why? Why all this funding? Well, trades are critical. I mean, to every part of our society. We wouldn't have these buildings today. We wouldn't have anybody to fix our cars. We wouldn't have anybody to cook our meals. Our roofs need to be fixed. They're important for every aspect of our society today and our lifestyle that we have. So that's why it's important to support the trades. That's why governments support the trades. And the government has indicated your trade as a red seal trade, and it is a trade that really should be supported fully by the industry. So who is this apprenticeship for? So if you're a contractor, is it for brand new employees? What about your existing employees? Some of the existing employees. An employer can credit up to 3 years of time on a 4-year trade. So if you've got guys who've been working with you, you can actually sign them up. And it doesn't matter how many years they have. If they have 10 years of time, you can still give them the 3 years of time towards their apprenticeship. And they can challenge up to two periods, because the shortest minimum contract to complete any apprenticeship is 1 term, 1 year. Okay, and 1 year for this trade again is 1,600 hours and 12 months. However, we always stress the value and benefits of attending the training, regardless of having a few years of experience. I asked a certified journeyman once he had 10 years in the trade, why he didn't challenge first year. He went to school for first year. He said, I went to school to see what I didn't know. You know, that's the attitude we want to have, right? That's a great attitude. Anyway, he did so well, he became first in the whole province, all 4 years. So it's always beneficial to attend, as there's always new things to learn. Things change. Right, Gary?
Absolutely.
Okay. So There's no entrance requirement for this trade.
No, I'm sorry, say that again.
There's no entrance requirement.
That was gonna be my-
You don't need high school completion, math 30, you know, all that stuff, physics. Like, you're not doing instrumentation, you're not figuring all this computer crap here.
My high school diploma didn't
I
help me
tell ya,
figure that out.
I'm glad you got it going. I couldn't. Okay, so sponsors and employers. Why sponsors? We call it now sponsors under the new act. The word sponsor is used more, it replaces the word employer. Why train and certify? Okay, so let's look at some of these benefits, okay? Besides the financial benefits, we improve the quality, we can gain confidence knowing the job will be done right. Can use it for marketing, all right? Promoting the Red Seal certification to your clients, proof of a professional installer, fewer mistakes, safety, of course, there's a lot of safety training that's done, and possible liability concerns if there's an accident, okay? So we want to minimize any accidents. So a trained and confident employee can take on more responsibility and more jobs. It helps the company grow, can help build your reputation as a professional company. Obviously, a lot more benefits than just some of the financial programs. The wage rates, some of you might be asking, what about the wages? The wage rates are a percentage of the journeyman rate for your shop, not from the industry, not from an association or a union, not from a different industry. It's what is the basic journeyman rate that you deem would be for your shop once a person has completed the program. And that'll vary from company to company, from location, from whether it's Calgary or Edmonton or somewhere out in a small town. Okay. So it's what you establish for your shop. So a more confident, productive employee can support your bottom line and should be deserving of that higher wage. Anyway, the wages go 65% for a first year of that basic general rate, 75, 85, and 95, the roofing trade. So for example of that, a person earning $30 an hour journeyman rate in a company, their first year rate would be $19.50. That's just an example. Some companies actually use the rates to help them to determine what to pay employees, and it helps the companies to stay on track. And if you look at some of the bigger corporations out there in carpentry and that, they go by these wage rates. Their HR departments and that they go, some of them are very strict on those wage rates. So it's important to apprentice people because they feel valued, they feel worthy, and recognition. Recognition is high on the list. They get this when you apprentice them. So money is often not the number one factor for people leaving a company. So one of the things is when your apprentice gets certified, you can order them business cards. Now, sure, they're a roofer, maybe they don't need business cards, but you can order a business card, and at the end of their name, you can put the endorsement, the initials RSE, RSE. Stands for Red Seal Endorsed. That makes them feel good, you know? When they go home and they show their girlfriend or whatever, look at, here's my card, RSE. What's that stand for? Well, it's like a professional designation, Red Seal Endorsed. And they help to promote the company. So everybody that's in the company that's working, that's certified, that's even all your roofers, they can help promote the company if they get that business card and that RSE on their card. It makes them feel valued. And they're in a better position when they complete an apprenticeship to help the company grow, to help the company to supervise, to mentor others, to run jobs, to take on more responsibility, maybe being able to estimate and being able to schedule more work and supervise work. Because that's stuff that they learn when they attend the technical training. They get that confidence. So a quick recap here on some of these things. It's a low cost tuition. There's grants for both employers and employees. Employees collect EI while in school, so they're off your payroll. Employers can top up the EI. So if they're, because some guys can't afford to even drop down to 60% for a couple months, well, employer can top it up. So there's things there that a lot of people don't know. You got to ask. That's the key, is to ask. And if you ask, don't be afraid to ask us, and we can help you. So the training can also give your valued worker a well-deserved break, and they feel valued by the company. So what's the fear? Okay, so in a provincial meeting a few years ago, one employer said, what happens if I train them and they leave? Another employer said, what happens if you don't train them and they stay? Okay, the better solution is obviously to train everyone. And those subcontract companies, inform them, if you're subcontracting, inform them well and share the benefits with them. Encourage them to have a certified person in the company and to participate in the Roofer program. So everyone in the industry can help, because if you're hiring subcontract workers, encourage them to participate in this program. Any employee is going to quit and go into competition with you. That was a fear. Well, one might, but let's take stock of this. If you say that, then you're saying that they are going to do their own marketing, their own sales, their own estimating, their own contracts, their own scheduling, buying, accounting, invoicing, collecting and banking, taxes, pay their own CPP, do the hiring, which is a huge issue as it involves finding people, networking time, or contacting and interviewing. They're going to deal with the customers and insurance companies, handle complaints, do on-the-job training because they're likely not going to get support from apprenticeship, deal with the safety concerns and inspections, and handle payroll. So you're saying they're going to quit and they're going to go and do all that? They're not. And still get the work done? So some companies have that concern. They're going to quit and go into competition with me. Like I said, it's rare that it happens. If it happens, it's going to happen anyway, because that person has an entrepreneurial drive. Thank you. Okay, so please don't look at that as a barrier. Overcome that, come to us, let's get those guys going, and let's get at least start with one, get one signed up, get one registered, get one going, and then go from there, get the second one. If you're concerned about that, get the person that has been staying with the company, working with you, and is going to continue to work with you, get them certified. Okay, so there's options for doing this. This is where we get into some of this. There's options for getting person certified. So,
Maybe you're looking for that. Yeah.
no.
Okay.
So they can be self-registered, unsponsored. This is brand new under the Act. So a person, I can go right now myself, sign up as a roofer, and be self-registered, unsponsored. Now, I wouldn't get any time credit because I need a sponsor in order to give me the time credit. Only an employer can grant the time credit. But I can be self-registered as a subcontractor. I can be self-registered, unsponsored. I'm eligible to attend first period technical training. Okay. That's one option.
Is this slide up there right now? Sort of a generic one. I thought you had said earlier that there was no prerequisite needed for anybody to get into the program. You didn't need a grade 12 or what have you. And right now I'm reading proof of education.
Okay, this what you're reading looks like it pertains to all trades, but to the roofing trade does not have,
This is just a generic.
that's a generic thing, yeah.
I would say this is the one that's. Don't say so.
That's because it's a 14, 20 hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 14 hours.
So there's several options. Under the new act, an individual can be again self-registered and unsponsored. They can get sponsored at a later date and get credited up to 36 months of time on their apprenticeship. So no time credit on their apprenticeship contract. Remember, that's 1,420 hours for the first 3 periods, 1,600 hours for the final period. That's what they do, put in. That's the reason it's more for the final period is because no technical training.
Did you say that last year was that on the job experience too, like working 16?
Yeah, 1,600 hours, it's only on the job. So if they can't attend technical training 1 year, and they skip 1 year and they go the next year, they're still getting the technical training done within the 4 years. It's not like they're, losing any, it's not like it's going to take them 5 years. So they have 3 years to do the technical training. They have 3 periods of technical training and they could do it over the 4 years. And if it takes longer, it takes longer. Okay. Even though it's a 4-year program, a lot of guys take 5, take 6 to complete. Okay, so that's one example. Another example is a person could challenge the entire thing through the qualification program that requires 6 years of time. So a person has been working in the trade for 6 years of time, they can challenge it. Now, again, there's another option is they can be self-registered, unsponsored, attend one of the periods of technical training, and then decide whether they want to challenge it. They can attend one of the periods of technical training, and they can actually challenge the other 2 and complete an apprenticeship and get the $2,000 completion grant. So there's several options for the subcontract employee company, and there's some options for companies that hire those subcontractors. Companies that hire the subcontractors can sponsor them into apprenticeship, but they have to meet requirements of a sponsor. So some of those requirements are they have to ensure that there's on-the-job instruction. And they have to also ensure the apprentice progresses and ensure that there's some mentorship going on. So for a sponsor to hire an apprentice, these are some of the things that they have to do. Now I can share this sheet with you at some point later. I'm not going to go through all the details on it today.
I have all of that, so I
Yeah.
can send that all out to everybody.
Perfect.
Dave, quick question, Dave.
Yeah.
On that, so on a job, you have to provide on the job mentorship. So I've got subcontractor ABC on the job. I visit them in the morning, visit them at night. Inspect a job when it's completed, provide them guidance. Does that
That's
meet the
good.
requirement?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what we're looking for.
Even if ABC is already a registered company. Because most of the subs in our industry are already a registered company themselves. It might just be a numbered company.
Yeah.
But you could still sponsor them.
Yeah.
It would just be like the individual.
Yeah, so that's something that's new under the act. That's so these changes under the act were meant to give more opportunity, more flexibility, to get more people into the seats, to help your industry, to help get them to sign up. So that's one of the benefits of this act. It's there to support and get more people certified in the industry. So what's required to challenge? First one, to just challenge the whole thing and become certified. Okay, a minimum of 72 months and 8,790 hours of work experience. And pass the provincial Red Seal exam. And there's some sample questions on the Red Seal website, Canadian government website. And one more thing, they require an employer declaration letter. So the employer or the sponsor would have to provide a declaration letter. Declaration is stating that they're working at the journeyman level, what would be considered the journeyman level for the kind of work that they're doing. And in order to put them to challenge, and that's because there's no practical exam. There's only the theory exam. So the employer declaration letter will replace the practical exam.
So question here for you, just based on the hours, I know in a lot of companies, whether they're working with contractors or whatnot. They're not paying hours, they're not tracking how many hours somebody's been on site, they're paid by bundle or they're paid by rooftop. So how as an employer or how as an employee can you state this is how many hours that I've got in? I mean, roofers don't work a standard 8-hour day. You know, if it's too hot in August, they're off roof by noon. Or if it's pleasant in September, they'll be on from 8 in the morning to 10 at night.
Okay, so 8 in the morning till 10 at night, that you document those hours. So what they really should do if they're signed up as apprentices, put their hours on a calendar every day. And then have their sponsor at a later time, put the total grand total into one little square in their record book.
Okay.
So,
Can I just share my experience with that? So Dave, put on your earbuds for a second.
okay,
So I'm a red seal electrician and a red seal refrigeration mechanic. And so the question was how many hours? The refrigeration mechanic works well over 1,600 hours all year and stuff like that. My employer just gave me a stamp and said he knew kind of thing. So it wasn't like to the T that you had to have this hour. Again, Dave, your months, but it was like, yeah, you obviously there, you hit your target for sure. There was one stamp. I had 4 stamps for each year. That was it.
I mean, you don't want a poorly trained guy, so you wouldn't want to say, you know, this guy did 2,000 hours this year when he doesn't, right? It's.
yeah, you would know. I mean,
Yeah, you would know.
If someone's been an apprentice and there's hours that are required, when I went through the program, I just downloaded an hours tracker app. And just made it my own responsibility to keep track of my own hours.
good point, good. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, under the new act, STAE, Skilled Trades and Apprenticeship Education Act. Oh, we have Apprenticeship Education Industry Training Program Regulation, which is 28 pages. And that covers things to do with the educational program. So, and it covers information on the sponsor, the registrar info, wage percentages, and educational credits. So here's something brand new. When a person goes through and completes the roofing program now, they not only get a certificate from SAIT saying they completed the SAIT program, they not only get a journeyman certificate with the red seal on it, the Canada Red Seal, but they get an educational diploma as well, because going through an apprenticeship trade is considered similar to attending a university. So those are educational credits that are same as university educational credits. So that's something brand new. There's a number of educational credits you'll get for attending that they'll get for attending this program. Okay, so that's one regulation. Then there's the designated trades and restricted activities regulation, which is the 320-page one that Chelsea had up there. And the roofer starts on page 282, which you see, she's got it right there. And just a few key points on this. Okay, so remember in the past, we used to have compulsory trades and optional certification trades. And if you don't know about that, just really quickly, the trades where individual or the public safety was a concern, not the individual worker, because, you know, roofing, carpentry, some of these trades can be very dangerous, right? But it's where the public safety is a concern. And that would be trades like automotive mechanic, electrician, right? Hairstylist, because they use chemicals on people's heads. So, but roofer wasn't considered compulsory, because a person doing roofing, it wasn't danger to the public. So all that's gone. There's no compulsory trades anymore. All trades have the same status to a certain degree. Okay, what it is all those tasks are now restricted tasks. So all tasks in all trades are restricted tasks. So all the tasks in a roofer trade, and believe me, there's a lot of them, almost anything you do. You touch a hammer in the roofing trade, that's the restricted task, but like that full page, I don't want to read it all to them.
Oh,
But-
trust me, we've gone through it lots.
Yeah. So the restricted tasks, however, some trades have different classifications, okay? So let me explain some of this to you. So there's classes of individuals, all right? So in the trades that were previously optional trades, classes of individuals are a little bit different. They're a little bit different than trades where like electrical, plumbing, gas, okay? So. And I have. Here, the classes of individuals, only the following individuals may perform a restricted activity within the designated trade of a roofer. Okay, then let me just give you what they are, okay? So they have a trade certificate, so that you're okay if you've got a trade certificate. They have an endorsement in a designated trade. You know, some questions on that. Basically, what it is, okay, so you have another certificate. That's a roofing certificate, maybe from another country, maybe from another province, but you've got an endorsement in this trade, in a designated trade. The individual in the opinion of the employer possesses the skills and knowledge in performing the restricted activity. So, okay, so that's kind of open.
Yeah.
If the
Yeah.
guy can do it,
Yeah.
if the guy is up there, he can do it. I mean,
Who's deeming that?
yeah. And it's the employer.
It's
All right.
So as long as they just be clear on that, I think this is a really important part.
Yeah, I know.
As an employer.
So it opens the
keep
door.
them confident enough to do that work. That's enough.
So that, and the employer too, the employee, if you are an employer in the industry, then you're also okay. So if you're registered as an apprentice, if you filed an application, or if you're a student in a student work program, or if you're registered in an education program that is recognized by the administrator, then you're okay. If you have a special authorization, and scroll down, I'm on number K, if you own the home, you own the property, I guess you could do your own roof. I sure couldn't. I tried to do a shed once and I sure freaked that up. My neighbor and I, good thing it's in behind the trees where you can't see it. So, and if you're working on a farm, okay, you're okay. Or if it's the same restricted activity within another designated trade, and that would be. The only thing I could think of is a person doing sheet metal on a roof, and they are a certified sheet metal worker. So, and that would be fine. So basically what it's saying is, in this regulation, what it's saying is if you hire somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, if they're green, then really your obligation is to apprentice them. You got to apprentice them because it's a restricted trade, restricted task that they're working on. So, I mean, if you hire somebody that you know can do the roof, no problem. And it's really up to the employer, it's up to the industry. The onus is on you to be responsible and to, you know, participate in the program that's designed for your industry. All right. It's very difficult to police that, but if we go out to construction sites and we see, as an officer, we see a person who's brand new and they are not signed up as an apprentice, we will talk to the employer and talk to them about getting signed up as an apprentice. Okay. Bottom line is that they refuse. Well, we would then discuss the compliance part of our job. Because there is compliance and there are potential fines. It would likely never go that route, never go that far. It would likely get them signed up. But there is compliance information as well. The fines could go up to $15,000.
15.
I think it's 15,
We
yeah.
were told it was 15 to 50.
Maybe it's 50. Wow,
Yeah, we
they've
were told
increased.
it's-
Okay, that I think that's probably under the new act.
Yeah, they told us it started at 15, it
Yeah.
would go as high as
Yeah.
50, but I think what our question was surrounding those fines. Is if someone showed up to the work
Can you stand
site-
up?
Oh, yeah, I can stand up. Why, you're not sick of looking at me by now?
Can't hear you.
Yeah. Wait,
If someone shows up and gives a fine. Does the individual get the fine? Does the company get the fine? What if it's a sub? Does the sub get the fine? Does the main umbrella company get the fine? Does everyone get a fine for the day? Do they divvy it up?
okay, so we don't go out and issue fines. Okay. That's up for the courts and the judges to decide. What we would do is if that came to that, and like I said, it'd be very rare that it would come to that. But if it ever came to that, we would issue a compliance order. We explain that to the employer, and the employer would have certain length of time to comply. And in almost all cases, they would comply. So we, we would do the consulting route first. Okay? So if they don't comply, then it would be escalated to the next phase, and eventually it could become could end up as a court order.
How soon do the companies have to be in compliance? As it stands right now.
Well, that would be up to the officer that issues a compliance order. Usually we give them a week or so to comply, or a couple of weeks, because they have to get online, do the application, submit the application. To be compliant, by the way, it costs a whopping $35 to be compliant. All they have to do is apply. So that's why very seldom we're going to see a compliance issue.
Sorry, what is that $35? What does that mean? to
That's
sign-
the,
to
that's the
sign up?
apprenticeship application, $35.
Okay.
So when that happens too, the apprentice would go online. I didn't get into this because there's a lot of things to talk about when it comes to acceptance forms and record books and the applications, things like that. That's really for you to talk to me about when you hire on an apprentice. But just to let you know that the application is online through our website, tradesecrets.alberta.ca. And there's a lot of information on that website. The apprentice would go online, complete their application and submit it to the employer. The employer would submit it to our office. If the employer pays the $35 fee, the application goes straight through. If the employer doesn't pay the $35 fee, then an email is generated to the apprentice for the apprentice to pay the $35 fee. Now, yes,
If you scroll up, like you had that mention there that
Sorry,
No, other way.
a little bit higher?
like anybody can say that he's certified, like
Yeah, C.
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 Okay, so if I'm doing an in-house training. With anybody that started for us, we've got a two days training in the house, and then we do a little certification card that is certified to be on the roof. Are we compliance?
no. 2 days is not given.
But for labor to rip roof and put on their lid, it doesn't have to have like 3 years experience.
Does now.
The power of people, yeah, but it's not going to happen like overnight.
Okay,
either.
so Gary's gonna talk
I
about
can
that.
address that a little bit. So if you've got a labor that you're installing under, he's not on the roof by himself.
No.
He has supervision.
Yeah.
So that will look us up.
Okay, but we need to sign it up for the apprenticeship.
Yeah, he's working on his restricted tasks and he's unqualified. You would have to sign him up as apprentice.
And so on site, if you were to show up on that site. In his example,
Yeah.
if you were to show up on that job site, you would expect to at least see somebody with a journeyman.
Well, they don't have to be a journeyman. It could be an uncertified journeyman or somebody who's qualified doing the work. Okay,
That's overseeing.
overseeing it, right?
Right.
Yeah, and so as long as it's supervision, so. And now if it was an electrician, they'd have to be a journeyman, okay? That's the difference between some of the classes here that we're talking about. But in the roofing trade, you would deem somebody as an uncertified journey person or somebody who's qualified, who's running a job, who's the employer or whatever, they can apprentice people. They don't have to be ticketed to apprentice people.
Okay.
Okay, that's important. Glad you brought that up. Thank you.
Before we answer any more questions, I want to kind of put something out there that that Dave and our state friends here may be aware of. I'm not sure. We had done the survey with the ARCA this week, and the purpose for that survey is Karen, their executive director, and myself are working with John Brosda over at the Alberta Apprenticeship and Education. I know I'm missing a word or two in there, but to actually talk about these restricted activities. Because when we talk about restricted activities, does the person who takes off the old material need to be essentially ticketed, or an apprentice? Or what about the person who's handling the material at our manufacturers and our suppliers? Does that person have to be a registered apprentice? What about there's certain power tools? So we had done a survey with our own contractor members and the ARCA's contractor members to ask that some of those restricted duties actually be removed. And they are taking it into consideration. But they wanted feedback from the direct industry. That's why the survey was done. The feedback has now been submitted. It's all on their hands right now to see if some of those restricted activities would be removed from that list.
And that makes sense, because that could be like a laborer's position, right? I know what you're saying, because bricklayers, they have laborers and then they have bricklayers. And the carpenters, they have laborers and they have carpenters.
Yeah.
So roofers would be the same thing. You might have some guys that do labor work, but then you would, if they're actually putting the shingles down, then you want to make sure that they're.
Well, even in your example of electrician, often electrician as a laborer that's pulling cord through the wall, he's just not having them tied into a panel.
Yeah, but that's a different line. We would want to see that they're signed up. Because usually they're pulling the cord now, but when you turn your back, they're putting in plugs and working on the panel, so.
Can I speak to this quickly? So I think a good solution for everybody is to build a competency program. So when you work for PCL, Graham, the big general of this world, they want to know that your workers are competent. On a health and safety point of view, it's really easy to translate that into a competency at tasks. So they're training, have a 2-day training when they enter the workforce. And then, they go to the ACSA and they get health and safety training. You get health and safety training. And then, so it's no longer a 2-day training, but it's an ongoing mentorship training. And then you move them into the apprenticeship program. You want those workers to be well trained, and I want workers knocking at my doors that are apprentice, that are third years, that are journeyman. That won't work. And I think in my mind, and I worked on the health and safety side for a long time, and in my mind, it translates really easily, and it would be beneficial for everybody. And then you're covering your OH&S liabilities, and then you're covering your AIT's liabilities at the same time. And it doesn't have to be that complicated. We already do that. Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
So
There you go. Yeah.
Like we already do.
Yeah, so you're compliant. Yeah, this act as it stands right now.
So I actually want to speak to that a little bit, Keno. So another part of me working with Karen is to try and get all of our companies, to be prepared if an OH&S officer was to show up, to make sure that we all can be compliant. And to talk about these competency guidelines, we're actually working at making a universal one that would be particular to obviously our guys and then her guys as well too, but actually to all maybe have the same universal checklist. Maybe not every point on that checklist may, go along with what your business and what you offer from your company, but at least that we would have a general guideline and a general consensus that I would actually have Alberta Education maybe review, even have SAIT or the AIT officers review and say, are all the listed competencies, safety training, ladder safety, fall pro, all of those things, are all of these checked off in a day to make sure that we can all work and be compliant on site, and then to actually keep that checklist on site with you as well if anyone was to ever show up. So that is kind of some of the work that's going on behind the scenes. If you don't already have one of those competency checklists like that you may have, that we can try and build one for you as well too. Okay.
Well, we want to practice, right? We want people to sign up.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
In in the meantime, sort of measure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as an association, obviously trying to navigate ourselves through all of this, it's what can we do in the interim? Because obviously you have to, even if you want to challenge it, you still have to attend at least one period, right?
Unless you challenge the whole.
Yeah, unless, that's the Red Seal interprovincial, right?
SAIT qualification program.
So I just want to make sure that I understand this. So if you can challenge the entire Red Seal interprovincial, but if you want to just challenge just the journeyman program itself, or sorry, journey person program itself,
That would be the.
you have to take the at least 1 year to challenge two. Is that how it
No, you're
works?
still going through apprenticeship. So there's
Okay.
apprenticeship and then and you can challenge parts of it.
Okay.
Or you challenge the whole thing, but you need 6 years of time in the trade to do that.
6 years of time in the trade. Okay.
And still it's sometimes it's better to have attended a period of technical training because it's, there's a lot of technical things that you may not get unless you've been well trained on the job. Yes.
Hey, David, thanks for coming. Just for today, I'd like to know, I had a crew for 7 years. They're really good roofers, they know their stuff and training. Send them out in the field and we say, hey, by the way, you need to start sending your guys to school first. To do it. So are they legal to work until you guys come around and say, go to school, or does that work?
Well, you said you had him trained for how many years?
Well, they've been with me 7 years.
So you deem him to be qualified. So he's
They're
good.
qualified. Now they don't have to go to school?
No, he fits one of those categories. He's deemed by the employer to be qualified.
By deeming them to be qualified, then you guys, and then somebody comes around and says, hey, you gotta go.
No, someone's not gonna do that.
Because they're compliant now, Nick, they're
Yeah.
compliant based on the act.
Someone's gonna come around and might
Compliant.
say, oh, how long have you been doing this? And the guy says 7 years. Good to go, He says, I've been doing it for a week. That's a different thing. Okay?
Another time a week, they've all, who's ever done a week.
No, I don't.
But if they find somebody up there in a week, sorry,
But if you say no,
Oh, you said that. 5 years.
so we're saying that there's a lot of benefits to apprenticing people, to getting them certified, and for the whole industry to participate, and for the whole industry to help market it as well. And so that's the message today. And I'm done unless you guys have more questions. And by all means, I've got cards here and definitely email me, call me. That's what we're here for, just to have people.
So subcontractors own their own business and they're on the roof and they endorse themselves for the hours that they put in for the apprenticeship program.
No. Okay, so the question was, can a person endorse themselves for the hours they put in? Well, they can't, they can,
A business.
they can sign up, they can be self-registered, unsponsored, but you have to be sponsored in order to get your hours to count, because only an employer or sponsor can, a sponsor can actually recommend hours. So once they become sponsored, maybe they are unsponsored for a year or 2 or 3. But once they become sponsored, they can get credited up to 3 years of time from that sponsor towards their apprenticeship.
Technically speaking, if I'm a sole proprietor, I'm also an employee of the sole proprietor.
Yeah, but
Which
you're
means
being
my employer is gonna sign off on my hourly
Yeah.
endorsement. So
but you also said in the
If
act,
you've got a partner, that would be a different story. Like if there's a partnership or somebody, or if you hire somebody else who's a qualified roofer and you own the company, then they could. We could. that could
David,
work
did I
out.
hear you say correctly though earlier that as an owner, you meet, that's one of the requirements, like you actually,
Yeah, you don't have to sign up,
you don't have to sign up.
but we're talking about an owner going through the program.
So in his example, right, you can't give yourself time. I understand that as the owner, you can't give yourself time.
No.
But the people that are working for you, in a sense,
You can credit up to 3 years.
you
of
can
time.
credit them or you can sponsor them, using your word, into the program.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and you don't have to be certified.
And do you know what percentage of ownership you have to have in the business to say that you're met that? Is there a percentage?
he said it's partnership. It's-
No. He said earlier, if you're an owner of the company, you in a sense are good. What I want to know is what's that ownership? Because who says we don't all go out now and say, okay, you own 0.5% of the company now. You own 0.5, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying guys are going to try to, but I'm just saying it's these are the gray areas that get a little confusing, I guess. to
Yeah,
a certain
but
degree.
typically, if you're gonna go into business as a roofer, you've got some experience, you've done this before, and now you're the one that's putting your neck on the line out there, doing those jobs. So you have that, so you're the employer, and we'd rather you be able to apprentice somebody than not apprentice somebody. Because if we don't allow you to apprentice somebody, that's creating a real barrier to the industry there. How are we gonna get more people certified? So we do allow those people who become owners and they're in their own business. We assume that they know enough to be in their own business, and we allow them to apprentice other people.
And you have no restrictions, if I understand correctly, on the time that a person has to have been in the business before they owned a business. Because this is an issue that we have had to deal with here in Calgary, like when the hailstorm came through in June of 2020, where all of a sudden the city of Calgary had 186 new applications for roofing companies.
The day after
In
the
1
house.
week, they had 186 new applications. And I saw stuff come across my desk from literally Bob's Painting that was doing work for insurance companies. But according to that regulation, they're own a roofing company now.
We're far from perfect.
Yeah,
All we can do is promote the school, promote apprenticeship, promote the training, and promote the certification. And it's unlikely you're gonna see compliance orders and things like that. If we started issuing compliance orders to every one of those companies out there, and 99% of your industry, I know, does not participate in apprenticeship.
Yeah.
We'd like to see that change. We'd like to see a lot more people participate. So, and I know that because I went to one of the shows once down at the Stampede grounds, where a lot of trade shows, Home and Garden Show or whatever, and there was 40 roofing companies there.
Yeah.
And I used to know all the roofing companies that participating, and I couldn't recognize one name of a company that participated, sent people to apprenticeship. So we need more participation from your industry, and I hope that today you'll see the benefits. And not just financial, but other benefits, and that there's opportunities here to help your people become certified, to show a more professional, bring the level up, bring the level of quality and the professionalism up within the industry. And I think to do that, let's support the apprenticeship, okay? Support the school and the trade. If you do, we're gonna have, Jerry's gonna be busy. We're gonna have more classes going. We're gonna have to have more than 1 or 2 first-year intakes. We're gonna have to have 3, 4, 5. Some trades have 5-year intake, 5 intakes. Matter of fact, some of our classes right here, gas fitter right now is 97% fill rate. Right now, the roofing trade, I think the next intake is full with 5 or 6 on the waiting list. So the school schedule comes out in May for the next calendar year. So more people we get signed up, more school seats the government is going to purchase, and the more intakes they're going to cover. So the government is going to support the industry. If there's more participation, they're going to support it with more classes. So bring it on.
And Chelsea, can you work with David, come up with, like, I've got my chicken scratch here that I can barely read, but it's really point form at best. To put together a summary of what David had talked about at the very beginning there with regards to A, how the program works, B, also the subsidies and grants and benefits to both the employers and the students themselves as to why the program works and what have you. We can have that and have that message sort of available for all of the members within the AARA. I think that would go a long ways. Just for me, somebody that I'm going to be talking to in other markets, Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, as you've seen, it helps me also be able to talk to them about, hey, the advantages of the programs. Hey, you know what? You can actually better your business with the marketing that you were talking about, but also with the education within the system. But also not being obtrusive to the contractor or the business owner, so he can't afford to send somebody into the program because of the negative side of losing a staff member for 6 weeks at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. That was kind of my plan after is I'm recording this as well too for everybody. So I'll make that available on the back end of the website for everybody. Yeah, sorry about that. I
No,
didn't really ask your permission, did I?
I'm not-
But yeah, I'll have a recording this, but I will make a summary for everybody for the financials and all the benefits and all that good stuff as well too. And I'll also put all of David's contact information as well, so you can bug him along the way too. Before we wrap up, I wanted to add, now part of the classes of individuals is who holds an endorsement in the trade. Is the only recognized endorsement a journey person certificate or a red seal? Does that endorsement come anywhere else? Or from, I guess, from another country, you said as well too, right?
Yeah, right now, I mean, that's put in there, but I don't know of any other endorsements.
Because now this is just speaking freely, but a lot of our members are all certified with at least a manufacturer. So they have to go through training, technical training, classroom education to learn how to install that specific product. Do you think the government would ever look at a program like that as an endorsement?
Yeah, I mean, if they have that endorsement and they're qualified to do the work, then they would meet.
There should be compliance to
They'd
the
be
act.
compliant, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a thought
Yeah.
because a lot of those places, they actually will give you some
Yeah, so
kind of
that's-
plaque or certification to keep with you.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. I know there's probably a million questions. Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
So the Red Seal program, if I understand, that's recognized university across Canada, correct?
Yes.
Except Quebec.
Except in Ontario or in the province.
Right.
Yeah. Someone said not Quebec, I'm not Quebec, I'm not
You
sure.
have to do the provincial exam in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't just go to Quebec.
So if you're red seal, you're not approved in Quebec.
You still
Yeah,
have to-
Red Seal is recognized, but you're still not allowed to work. You need to do the provincial exam.
Okay,
And there's mobility benefits to that because the red seal has the symbol on it. So if a person wanted to go to England or other countries, they're gonna see that. There's some benefits there too.
You said there's some provinces where it's only like 2 years.
don't give anybody any idea, Sean.
You know, I think there
Well,
was.
no, just like
Uh,
looking at somebody moving, parachuting into our.
Yeah, we have a
marketplace with,
4-year
with-
trade
with-
because of our Chinooks and our freeze thaw issues and
Yeah, less,
complex.
and then that's more my concern. I
Yeah.
mean, we want to uphold the standards of the industry, not. Coach
I
people
think-
into
I
a
think-
lower.
I think we're on the high end for 4 years. A lot of them are 3. I think one province is 2. I have to check into that. If you want that information, email me, I can check into it. Yeah.
So I missed this, when is this act? When is it effective?
Now,
This came
Now.
in last July.
Here, I'll hold on.
yeah, can you speak? Go ahead.
I can, yeah, when you.
Happy New Year. Yeah, it was July 20. Well, that's the new regulation that was put into place July
Or
20th.
July 20.
And then I think the act, like the STAE Act, that was put in July 4th, wasn't it?
July 4th.
No, that's the designation. That's not the
Or
act.
July 20th.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, that's just the, okay. Good.
And
Awesome.
educate your clients so they don't hire bots painting to do their roof.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
if-
right.
Even if you don't get the roof, then at least Elite or West Wallington's.
You know, that's one thing. That's such a good point. You could get in the media, you could educate the public that this is a trade and hire certified people. That would be really beneficial. Yeah.
To go back to
And
the,
insurance companies.
That was.
oh, we've been working
There
on
was
those
an
insurance
insurance job
companies a
where-
long
That was
time.
the preferred vendor was Bob's Paint.
Yeah,
Hey, guys, I think
Sorry.
we've kind of destroyed both.
further questions, definitely email me or give me a call, okay?
I will send that information out to everybody so they have it as well, okay? And I'll take a stack of this man's business cards.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Just
think,
leave them all.
speaking on behalf of the industry and stuff like
Yeah.
that, David, I think where you've helped us out today is from the comments I've heard from our members and ourselves, I think a lot of us felt like we weren't compliance and that we were in the midst of possibly getting these fines and who was getting the fines and how much. I think that was kind of the scare that was out there right now. I think today hopefully helped us to understand that probably there's a decent chance that most, if not all of us, are compliant based on what the act is showing us right now that we're at. And obviously your promotion along with SAIT, which I agree with, is, but there's areas we can still improve upon by getting our guys trained, getting them more educated. And at the end of the day, if they all have the certification of the red seal, we know for sure they know what they're doing and they're compliant for sure. So I think hopefully we all leave with that concept today that We're not in this scary, all of a sudden somebody's gonna show up at our job site one day and all of a sudden all of our guys are gonna end up with fines, or we're gonna, as an industry, gonna end up with fines. I think is a safe act, so.
Yeah,
We were
not,
kind of.
not
afraid
much
of it.
has changed other than that there is no compulsory and optional
Right.
anymore. It's all restricted, and, but there's still the different classes and not much has changed.
Awesome.
You got it.
Okay, well, thank you, David, for being here today and going through this. We know it's not always the easiest of topics, but